Good evening, Democrats, and welcome to the 2023 Oklahoma Democratic Party State Convention. This is our opportunity tonight in our forum for candidates to speak directly to you. Now, this is something that we have been doing with the party for some time, and the last time was virtual as well. We held this open until 5 o'clock last night for any declared candidates. And right now, we still only have one. So this evening will be devoted to that one candidate, taking your questions, answering things that you have interest in or concerns about, or just questions about where the party's been, where it's going, whatever you decide. This is your forum, and we need you to participate with us. I want to introduce to you our two moderators this evening. First up is Josh Higginbotham. He is a relative newcomer to Oklahoma Democratic Party politics, and that's exactly why we wanted him here, because he's got a terrific perspective of someone who is now becoming involved in a very great, strong way. Our other moderator this evening is Reverend T. Cherie Dickerson, and she's been around the party a long time, and she also serves as the state chair of the party's Affirmative Action Committee. So with that, I'm going to begin with Cherie, and she will be asking questions of our current chair and our candidate for this year's election, Alicia Andrews.
Hi, Democrats.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Josh. Great to be here with each of you all and all of those that are coming in from their virtual respective places. I want to go ahead and jump right in so we don't take time, because I have some questions for you, Madam Chair, if that's all right.
That's what I'm here for.
First off, for those that don't know, would you tell us how long have you had your tenure as the Oklahoma State Democratic Party chairperson?
I am currently serving in my second term. I was elected originally in 2019, so I'm just shy of 4 years as the chair of the party.
Congratulations on 2 terms that have been extremely beneficial for the party. I think it is important for transparency to be part of this conversation. It is something that you have always amplified since even before you became the chair. You had already been involved in the party, in politics, working in Tulsa County as the secretary. Is that correct?
Yeah. Directly before I became chair, I was the secretary of Tulsa County. And in the 2018 cycle, I was part of the coordinated campaign. Prior to that, I worked on, I was a volunteer for Kathy Taylor's campaign, Alvarez Allen, and several other campaigns.
So I guess my first question as a newcomer would be, because I think something that I'm only starting to see now, but for people who are not familiar with the party, is the connection between the party and when you go into the voting booth. It is when you're voting for a Democrat. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of coordination and things like that. And I was kind of wondering, is there a good way you can think of to sort of summarize exactly what that connection is?
Wow. Okay. I like that question. And I do believe that there is a connection. And, all of us who are involved need to do everything we can to make sure that people are aware of the connection. So I believe it is our job as party insiders, people who are involved in the party, to make sure that voters know when there are elections, are educated about what they're going to be voting for, and that we're registering people, encouraging folks to vote, that recruiting candidates and supporting those candidates. And when we do recruit them, and when I support, that is with our time, our treasure, and our talent, everything that we can. And so there is a direct connection. And I will say that COVID was both a blessing and a curse. I was traveling all over the state, going from county to county, trying to make sure people knew what was going on. And then when COVID happened, I decided to start doing a daily live. I thought I was going to be doing a daily live for a couple of weeks just to make sure that people stayed connected. However, I kind of got into it, that this was an opportunity for me to raise the issue of what was happening at the Capitol every day, what was happening nationwide every day in our state. And that's how I am deliberate and intentional about making the connection between what the party does and what all voters are doing. So that's kind of that's how I think that the connection is made. That's one of the ways I think the connection is made. I think it's the biggest connector. Am I frozen?
No, I see you. Sorry. Madam Chair, there are some people who are newer to the party. And I think we have a lot of young people who we are being intentional in getting them engaged into the party. Can you explain to me, I had a young person say, well, what does the party chair, what is their job description? What do they do? Can you tell us about some of your day-to-day tasks and what it is that you are, what obligatory responsibilities in this position?
So my job description is pretty simple. I am the cheerleader for the Oklahoma Democratic Party. My job is to make sure that someone is talking about the Oklahoma Democratic Party at all times, be that in normal conversations on the news, both local and national, in rooms where there might be candidates or in rooms where there might be people who are not yet registered to vote. But my day-to-day task in doing those is making sure that we're sending out regular press releases, making sure that we doing things to make our local news, both in print and on broadcast, say the Oklahoma Democratic Party. Additionally, I'm out here always recruiting candidates and supporting our elected officials and working with our subunits, our county parties, our districts, our constituency groups, or our federations, with how they build grassroots, how they build volunteers, how they bring more people in, and how they educate folks. And all of that takes funds. And so additionally, it's my responsibility to raise money to make sure that our staff is paid and that we have an office and that, that there's a website, and that we can roll out programs that help elect Democrats and help the Democrats who have been elected.
Sheree, I think you're mute.
I was just saying, Scott, Josh, I have a follow-up question, if you don't mind, very quickly. Madam Chair, you said about raising money, making sure that all of the day-to-day actions are going and working well. I know, because I've been involved in the party politics for quite some time, that before you were elected, that the party was pretty deep in debt. And it had been that way for a very long time. I'd like to talk about some of because I'm aware of them, some of these successes that you've had. Will you tell us you don't have to give an exact number, but I think it's impressive, of how much you've actually raised. I want you to go ahead and give yourself kudos, and I give you the same in acknowledging that since you have taken office, the party is no longer in debt and has remained in the Black, and has been doing great things for all of us, the Blue.
So first of all, I need to remind myself that I was raised to be better than this. So I want to take a moment, thank everyone who's joined. I want to thank the Reverend Dickerson and Joshua Higginbotham for agreeing to moderate and ask the questions. So to answer the specific question, I like to think about party, I ran originally saying that the party isn't the party that I want it to be, and that I believe that I bring skills to the party that can get us there. I'm going to be honest with you that when I decided to run, I stopped and I drove to Oklahoma City and had a couple of conversations with the then chair and asked questions about what it took to run the party, where the party stood. And then I got in and I found out that what I thought was $20,000 in debt was closer to $100,000 in debt. And that includes fines to the FEC and fines to the Oklahoma Ethics Commission. It made it kind of difficult for us to move around and do the things we needed to do as a party. But what I did, me and staff, I can't do this alone. Me and staff and the treasurer and the folks who believed in me and believed in the party, we put our heads down, we focused, and we raised the money. It took us a little over a year to get the party out of debt. Now, that's not to say that we're flush and swimming in money, but the party is no longer in debt. We pay our bills on time. I'm proud to say that I've never missed payroll for staff. And then we've also rolled out a couple of programs, including a campaign academy every year since I've been in office to train volunteers and candidates and professionals to help run campaigns. So the first brick was getting us out of debt. You can't run and you can't do programs when you're in debt. It's harder to recruit candidates when you're in debt. So my first step was to get the party out of debt. And then in the next cycle, my goal was to make sure that we ran quality candidates, despite the amount of money we had and the amount of energy we had. We ran some of the best qualified candidates, that we've run in a really long time in 2022. The next step is to make sure we are providing tools and tips to our volunteers and all of the folks in our subunits, in our county, in our district, and our federations, and making sure that there's fertile ground so that when candidates announce, hopefully this summer, when candidates announce that there is a foundation for them to build on.
Okay, so I guess one of my questions, there's a lot of misinformation about the 2022 Oklahoma election cycle that discounts successes of the party and that blames you and the ODP leadership for how voters cast their votes on November 8th. Can you please talk about this some?
Absolutely. So it's the role of the party and all the subunits and the House and Senate PAC and all those who care about democracy to be out there recruiting candidates and talking them into and convincing them of the value of running. And then it is on the candidates to run. It's on the candidates to plead their case. It's on us to help them, but it's on the candidates to plead their case. There's a lot of misinformation out there about how much money the party has and how many things. Oklahoma. Okay, the wind is blowing my internet. Oklahoma doesn't typically vote heavy blue. And so the party does not have a lot of funds to donate to candidates. What we do have is infrastructure. What we do have is convening power and connections. So what the party can do is have sessions, bring people around for candidates to meet and talk to. So there are a lot of folks who are concerned that the party didn't do enough to help elect candidates. The party did its job by recruiting candidates. The party did what we could to help and support our subunits. The party does not run campaigns. The party does not finance campaigns. And so there is a collaboration. There is work that needs to be done. But I also want to say that all registered Democrats are the party. And so if there's a thing that you wish the party was doing, come on in and help us do it.
Thank you for that, Aaliyah. I have a question. You talked about that there was really intentional recruitment of candidates over the last 2 election cycles. With those two, did we gain seats? Were there successes? Because we need to celebrate the wins for the party as a whole.
Thank you for that question. I am very proud to celebrate that in the State House, we actually gained a seat. We hadn't gained a seat in over a decade. And so that is no small feat. We lost a seat in the state Senate. That was a seat that was redrawn, and it was drawn to lean more Republican favored. We had a favorite Democrat there in Senator J.J. Dossett, but we weren't able to beat the gerrymandered spread in this cycle. But we gained a seat in the House, which is quite frankly a huge feat, because we've been losing seats for the last decade. We now have we continue to have a Democrat district attorney in Oklahoma City, which is quite a feat, because several people ran as Republicans, and we're gaining seats in the Tulsa City Council and Tulsa School Board, Jinx and Broken Arrow School Board as well. So we are gaining seats in the lower and municipal seats as well, and so we are on track to make more gains.
So there've been a lot of conversations about running a candidate in every single race in the state of Oklahoma, and I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that is the utopia that we all strive for. It would be wonderful if we could run 101, and I'm saying the number because I want people to understand what they're asking for. That if we could run 101 candidates for House, if we could run 24 candidates for the state Senate every time, and we could fill all of our county commission seats and all of our school board seats, that would be amazing. And I guess I need to say thank you to the Oklahoma Press for bringing it up every year so that people are aware. But that's a bigger feat than I think that people are aware of. That requires going into communities. There's one county in Oklahoma, and I don't want to call it out, but there's one county in Oklahoma that has 356 Democrats total in the entire county. And so finding a Democrat who will put their name on the ballot, spend their money to run, knowing that there's not a huge support system there, and there likely aren't a lot of votes, doesn't help our cause a lot, and it might actually make us lose a Democrat. It may make someone feel like they didn't get support and they don't want to be there. It is our goal to run as many Democrats as we can run, not just in seats that we are guaranteed to win, but we get it out. 101 House seats and 24 Senate seats sounds wonderful, but it's not feasible. Have the registered voter infrastructure, and quite frankly, we don't have the financial infrastructure in our state to support that at this time. But that's what we're always reaching out to. And I'm not going to call it an aspiration, because I do think it's possible, but it's going to require a lot more work from a lot more of us. I am working towards that. I have conversations with, I've been having conversations with the State House and Senate about recruitment. But I believe in transparency and honesty. We're not running a candidate in every seat in 2024. It's not realistic. It's not a good use of resources, and it burns Democrats. That is not what we want to do. But we will run more candidates. In each cycle, we run more candidates. We have to be able to support them.
We're seeing some of the questions coming up in the comments, and we want to thank you for your participation. This is awesome. Madam Chair, could you share some of the Vice Chair Proctor's research regarding Oklahoma's ground game's effect on our neighboring states in gaining Democratic seats in the Senate and at the state level? I feel like you kind of touched on a lot of that with your previous response, but could you kind of flesh it out a little bit?
Absolutely. I love that question. So because of the work that we did, because of some of the candidates that we ran in seats that Republicans thought that they were going to walk into, they had to spend money that they didn't intend to spend. Let's take the governor's race, for example. We had a qualified candidate who had a lot of support and a lot of polls that showed that she had a really good shot. And it wasn't just what we thought here in Oklahoma. The RNC actually came into Oklahoma and spent over $1 million because they were concerned that they might lose a Republican governor. And based on Vice Chair Proctor's data, I sincerely believe that Arizona and Nevada may owe us a thank you because the RNC spent money that was meant for Arizona and Nevada in Oklahoma. And so we gained a couple of Democrat governors, maybe not in Oklahoma, but in our nation. But the same thing happened in some of our local races. There were races that they didn't think that they were going to have to work for, but our candidates knocked enough doors and made enough noise that it scared them, and they had to shuffle money around to try to bury our candidates in the mailboxes. Those are the things that running candidates in different races do for us. But it all takes resources. And I have to be honest, every dime, not every dime, most of the dimes that I get when I'm calling and asking people, it's money that someone's earned. And asking folks to kind of throw money behind a kid that doesn't have an infrastructure to win or doesn't have the will to win is really hard, and I burn them for the next cycle. So I'm careful about, and we all have to be careful about, throwing out rhetoric. We have to, once we commit to asking a candidate and they're out there, we have to support them. So we have to be careful how many long shots we recruit early on until we build up more confidence in our system.
So in talking about sort of building that up, wondering exactly what ideas do you have to fire up and get more young people involved with Oklahoma Democratic Party?
Okay, so I have a track record since I've been involved of not only being nice to young people, but encouraging them in leadership and promoting them in leadership and supporting them in leadership positions, and not just positions that are designated for young folks. And that's what we have to do, because I think if people can see it, they know that they can be it. We had possibly the most diverse Central Committee the party's ever had in this last cycle. It was diverse in age, it was diverse in region, and it was diverse in ethnicity and demographics. And a lot of those folks were young people that I encouraged or suggested or buoyed when they decided to run for positions. And I humble brag here, I've been in conversation with Reverend Jesse Jackson of the civil rights icon, Reverend Jesse Jackson, this week on one of his initiatives that he is pushing in Oklahoma and wants me to be involved in. And that's in the registration and the involvement of young people. He's willing to put money in Oklahoma to help us register more young people at the college level to get them involved. And that's one of the ways that this position has helped me make connections that I can bring back to our state and improve the status of voting in our state.
So another comment and question, we're learning that House District 13 was so out because neighboring districts with no candidate were able to send donations to their candidate. Can we get neighboring districts to support the candidate in a neighboring district when they don't have one of their own, and how? And I also saw a question someone was asking about their respective counties or leadership are having conversations. So they're also asking how ODP can help with that. I think those two questions coincide.
Okay, I didn't hear the full question, but I'll try and answer it. So, you know, I'm a big supporter of Jimmy Haley and the folks out in Congressional District 2. And, you know, I had the conversation with Jimmy to encourage him to win, right? I had conversations with Jerry Donathan and encourage him to run. Here's the challenge. We've got to build up our county parties. And if a county party doesn't have enough people to meet, then they need to meet as a collective county, like 3 counties together, and they rotate. And that's how we build up coalitions. And so if we don't find someone to run in every county, the neighboring counties absolutely should band together structurally and go do a neighborhood door knock, a neighborhood phone bank, because that is the challenge. I will say that we saw that challenge, but we saw it on the other end, where we ran enough candidates in certain parts of the state, and not just Oklahoma City and Tulsa, but in other parts of the state where the Republican who didn't think he was going to have to run had to spend the money that he raised in his race rather than someone else's race, because that's what they do. What we have to do, and I'm just going to use this to be the chair, what we have to do is we all have to commit to supporting the party. We all have dreams of things that we want the party to do. They all cost money. So I'm going to plug right now and tell you to take a moment and donate to the Oklahoma Democratic Party, because that's how we have money to support candidates.
So one of the questions that I have, because of some family history and other things like that, is how can people who live in, let's say, CD5 or Tulsa, Oklahoma City, the places with a larger population, actually get involved in helping out the Oklahoma Democratic Party in the rural districts?
So that's a wonderful question. I will tell you that our legislators are looking at doing just this, because most of our legislators are out of Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Norman. And so they are trying to put together, and COVID hit them, and so we're going to try and do it again. They want to rent a bus and go around to some of our rural districts that don't have a Democrat that they can call and ask what's happening at the state capitol. We tried in the last cycle, and we're going to try again. We have a breakout session at convention that's dedicated to making sure that neighboring counties know who each other are, and we're trying to foster collaboration and cooperation. If I have an issue, if I have a candidate, I should be able to call the county chair in the county next to me and ask for help. So those are some of the ways that we're looking at making sure that rural Oklahoma is included in the conversation. We can't grow as the Democratic Party until we start having representation in our rural communities. We ran more candidates in rural communities this cycle than we have since the teacher walkout. And if elected again, I intend to run even more candidates in 2024, regardless of the naysayers. We've got to run candidates to give Democrats the confidence that they can stay Democrat, that their values mean something. So we have a plan. I already have a spreadsheet that has over 30 candidates for 2024 on them. So we are still recruiting, because we have to always always recruit. Recruiting isn't an event. It is a process, and we are constantly recruiting. I meet with a minimum of 3 new candidates a week, trying to get them ready for this cycle or next. And that's what we're going to do. And running candidates is how we build up our county parties, but also by building community between our county parties. And that's why we have a couple of breakout sessions planned for this convention to foster just that behavior.
I'm excited to hear about your agenda for should you elected for the next term. I saw a question or comment, I believe, by Jenna Harkins. I want to acknowledge that we have been so fortunate to have such amazing participation this evening. So we've been asking questions from Gia Harrison, Shakira Smith, Jamie Shelton, and please forgive me if I mispronounce the name. I believe it was Beth Reezy, and we had Alex White. And I'm not excluding anyone, but Jana made a comment that she is a monthly donor to the Oklahoma Democratic Party. She lives in a very conservative district, and she indicated that it would not be fiscally responsible or a smart effort for her or someone else to run in that district. And she felt like that would be a waste. And so she wants to make sure that the ODP is being good steward of the donations. How do you feel about when someone says we need to run someone in every seat, but we know that there are certain areas that the Republican, like you spoke of, the one that had 300 plus Democrats, but that was in that area. Is it smart, or would it be smart or wise to run a candidate, even if they could not, if winning or victory was not possible in that area?
So I'm a Pollyanna, and I like to believe in all possibilities. But here's what I'm going to say. We have a stronghold in Oklahoma County, a stronghold in Tulsa County, and a stronghold in Cleveland County. And what we have to do is we have to grow it, not by 2 seats at a time, but we have to grow it and grow it and grow it. And the more that we grow it, the easier it will be in those counties that look like they're impossible right now. But what we should not do, and we need to be very careful about this, what we should not do is run someone in a difficult district and not give them support. And that is with where we are right now. And I'm talking about volunteer participation. I'm talking about infrastructure. I'm talking about the forces that are trying to tear down the party. Where we are right now, trying to run someone in every single district will guarantee registering a former Democratic candidate as a Republican, because they will feel like they did not get the support or the votes and that it's a lost cause. And so we have to be very careful and strategic about where we're going to run, how many of those tough seats, how many of those seats that are plus 40 Republican are we going to run someone in? Because it is hard to get them support. And if you run, and I know that you, Cherie, and some of the people who are watching have run for office, and it is very hard and it is very discouraging to run and not get the support. It is very discouraging, and we have to be careful of putting people in that position. I want to run as many candidates as we can. If I get somebody who comes to me and says, I know this district is 40 plus Republican, but I want to run because I want to give Democrats someone to vote for, I'm going to support them. I'm going to encourage them to run. And we're going to do everything we can to get the word out. I'm not going to discourage them from running, but I don't think that it is the best use of our resources to force races that are going to discourage Democrats. It can have a knock-on effect, and we have to be careful about that. We have to be careful of how many of those races that we run. Can I jump ahead and ask one other question before it goes out of our sight? Can I talk about voters registration? I want to answer this question because this question is a very sensitive question, and folks feel like we haven't been talking about voters registration enough. So this is Oklahoma. And in the past, you could throw up a folding table outside of the mall and you could register folks, and you have a good shot of registering 50-50 Democrat, Republican. Right now, and for the last 6 years at a minimum, you throw up that folding table, you're going to register 1 Democrat and 3 Republicans. We cannot live in voters registration anymore. We have to be strategic and targeted. We now have access. Actually, now have access to DEC, which is a program that the DNC, that we haven't had before, that the DNC has, where we can go in and identify where there might be Democrats, where we need to door knock potential Democrats and get them to register. We need to be strategic with postcards and text campaigns to potential Democrats. And that's how we're going to focus our registration on registering only Democrats. Because the reality is, if you go out to a parade and you get this stack of Republican registrations, you have to turn them in. And quite frankly, they don't need our help. And so going forward, we talk about voter registration. We don't need to talk about it casually. We need to talk specifically and with a plan. And I am all for it because we have to. We are at a severe deficit in voter registration. And that's partially because of the phenomena that I just talked about. And it's also, we have to be honest. And it's also because there are some districts where we're not running Democrats and people want to participate. So I am keenly aware of the need to run candidates in as many places as possible. But I'm also a realist and don't want to burn the brave soul who puts their name on the ballot.
So I guess my question, kind of bouncing off of that, having been a teacher before, are there any ideas concerning a push in any of the schools to register young and new voters?
So that's part of the conversation that I had with Reverend Jackson. So I live in Tulsa. And years ago, you could call the administration building and say, we want to come in and do voters registration, and they let you come in. And now in Tulsa, they won't, what I've been told in the couple of times that I've called, that they won't let partisan organizations come in to the district. So only like the League of Women Voters or some other PAC can go in and register voters. And they're very careful about if you can be on grounds or if you can be in the parking lot, and they don't like you to be at the schools. And so they're at the games. And so there is work that needs to be done on how we identify young folks. Reverend Jackson was saying if they can send an 18-year-old a notice that they have to register for the not the military, but you guys know what I'm talking about, the service. If they can send them the notice that they have to register for the service, why can't they send them a notice it's time to do voters, that they need to register to vote? And so we're going to work on those kind of initiatives, because that's what we need to do. We need to be proactive and find folks at 18, get them involved, get them engaged before they get it in their head that their vote doesn't count. Selective service draft. Thank you, Jana.
I totally agree, Madam Chair. Speaking about expanding participation from young people, the other question is, because we are the big tent party, what are some of your plans to make the party more inclusive? And what are the communities or groups that you want to focus on in expanding their participation as well as within politics?
So a couple of things. One, I want to touch on one more thing. In order to get more people involved, we have to talk about real issues, right? We have to not be afraid to talk about bodily autonomy, not be afraid to talk about climate, not be afraid to talk about the hard issues, because people only get involved before their issues. And so that's also one of the things that I use my daily life about, student loan debt forgiveness. We have to talk about the things that people care about, and that's how we bring them in. One of the things that I'm doing at convention on June 3rd, because the convention is June 4th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. One of the things that I'm doing on June 3rd is having breakout sessions for different interest groups. Some of them are federations and some of them are just interest groups, because I'm trying to be intentional and focused on encouraging and providing an opportunity for those conversations. So the party already has an African American federation, a disability federation, Latin, Native American, women, veterans, Stonewall, which is for our LGBTQ folks, and a Young Democrats organization. I am personally, some of those organizations have been a little bit dormant. And so with being intentional, I'm encouraging folks to find folks to come and start the conversations. I've spent a good part of today making sure that we are creating an environment, an accessible environment for folks with disabilities. We're starting an AAPI federation called Oh Happy, and they're having a breakout session at convention as a way to bring those folks in. Additionally, I plan on starting a county chairs association to encourage those conversations. And then we're also having a breakout session for rural communications, and we're having a wonderful author coming to talk to our rural county folks. It's all about intentionally creating conversations and a place for us to talk about and focus on issues for every part of our tent. So those are some of the things that they're working on.
Would there actually be a way, let's say at the convention, to address high school seniors?
I think that's great. And I hope that the folks who are organizing our Young Democrats room are reaching out to high school seniors. I personally met a young man who is a high school Dem in Tulsa. I didn't even know we had a high school Dem organization here because he wasn't plugged into the party. And I invited him to participate. And we all have to invite everybody we know, 16 and up, 13 and up, to be a part of Young Dems. But they can register if they will be 18 before the November election in 2024. So we have to figure it out. There is not a way that I know at this time to do direct outreach to folks who are not yet 18. Because like I said, I've been blocked from coming into the schools, but I am open if somebody has an idea. And and I would be grateful to work with Young Democrats of Oklahoma to make that happen.
I believe that the Young Democrats of Oklahoma convention is on June 3rd, and I know that they are going to be focusing on and do have high school seniors as part of that organization. You've talked about inclusion. You've talked about your plans and agenda in electing more Democrats, in how to, because electing the Democrats takes money. We have to raise money to be able to continue the programming. What are your plans as far as invitation and inviting people to also participate financially by as well as other valuable offerings that people can give as far as volunteering within the party?
So we are a volunteer-run organization, and so and I have to give credit to Jenna Harkins. I say it all the time because I heard her say it, and it's great that we welcome, encourage, and beg for everybody's time, treasure, and talent. Not everyone is in a position where they can donate to the party, and we recognize that. But you can donate your time. And we have opportunities where you can donate your time and not leave the house. So there's all kinds of ways to donate. The state's going to be involved in the McCurtain County election by setting up a statewide phone bank. That's happening before convention, setting up a statewide phone bank so that we're all calling people in McCurtain County and turning out that vote. That will be a turnout race, and it will be a test case of how we can, as a state, focus in on one race and change the outcome. How we can, as a state, focus in on one race and energize Democrats in a place where Democrats feel a little bit downtrodden. So that's one way that people can get involved. Phone banks, postcards, come to the office, no matter where you are, no matter what county you're in, your county party, the state party, we all are looking for volunteers to do postcards, phone calls, send texts, help us recruit candidates, help us. Those are ways that we can help. And I will tell you, we're having 2 breakout sessions that are specifically dedicated to candidate recruitment and how to help a candidate who doesn't know what they need to do and help a county who doesn't know what they need to do. We're bringing in a national organization who's going to walk us through that process of recruiting and supporting candidates. That's going to happen at convention. And then whether I'm elected or not, and I really do want your support, we have already scheduled for NGP Van to come in and do Oklahoma-specific van training to help folks be able to use van for a whole lot of things, but most importantly, how to do that targeted voters registration.
So I guess as someone kind of new to this, my last question would simply be, what is the most important thing that I could tell somebody else who is also new to get them involved? Like, what is the first thing that they should do as a registered Democrat to get involved with the party?
Super. They can go out to okdemocrats.org, click on our party, find my party, and reach out to their county party. That's the number one thing that they can do, is get involved at the county level. Because at the county level, that's where they're going to meet their elected officials. That's where they're going to meet their future elected officials, or where they're going to decide to be a future elected official. That's the first thing. And when people ask why get involved in the party, you get involved in the party so you have a say. You get involved in the party so that the things that are important to you are the things that we are talking about. You get involved in the party so that nothing happens that you're not aware of in the voting process. Most people who have seen me even a little bit know that because of voting rights. Some people get involved in the party because of autonomy, LGBT, DEI, clean water. People get involved in the things that affect them the most, that interest them the most. And I'm the kind of nerd who cares the most about voting rights, because I believe that all of our rights are gained through the ballot box. And I got involved in earnest when Mary Fallin got reelected and less than 35% of registered voters participated. That was the thing that made me leave my house and get involved, because I was outraged that people didn't take voting as serious as they should. And this is a place where you have the conversations. That's why I come around, but I know so much more about the plight of others and so much more about intersectionality. And those are reasons to be involved in the party.
Thank you, Alicia. I want to say, as we're wrapping up, again, Thank you to everyone that has participated, has asked questions, has been a viewer. And please share this so that the word can get out and they can have the opportunity to hear the agendas and the plans for the candidates that are running for the state chair. My question, Alicia, is a lot of times in doing interviews, one of the questions that I'm always asked is there any question that you wished I would have asked, or myself or Josh, that we did not? And would you please highlight, give us a brief synopsis of your plan and your objective should you be elected as the next, should your term be extended as the Oklahoma Democratic Party chairperson?
So, what question do I wish you would have asked? Well, I've been doing this long enough that I snuck in answers that I wanted you guys to have in the questions that you asked. But what is my plan? So my plan is this, is to keep building on what we've already been building on. My plan is to build our subunits, make sure that our county parties are stronger, make sure that our county parties have more tools, make sure that when candidates show up at county parties, that there's fertile ground, make sure that our federations are active and booming, because our strength is in our diversity, because our federations represent our marginalized communities and our underrepresented communities. So I want to build our federations so that we have maximum inclusion, so that the Democratic Party, any meeting you go to, looks like Oklahoma. I want to make sure that more voices are heard. What happened last weekend at the Republican convention, where they went off the deep end and voted for the most extreme, that can't happen with us. We can't afford that. That is a very privileged position, because we all have real struggles. And those of us who don't have struggles, we know someone who has a struggle, and we all have to be in the fight together. So my plans: build our county parties, build our federations, continue to recruit strong candidates, and build more candidate professionals, so that when we ask someone to run, that there's somebody there who's ready to help them. That's the plan. It's that simple, is to make sure that there's maximum inclusion and that everybody has the tools, so that when candidates are ready to run, we're ready for them.
I want to take a moment to thank our moderators this evening, Josh Higginbotham and Cherie Dickerson. It's been wonderful listening to your questions, and I appreciate so much you being with us this evening. In a moment, I'm going to bring back our candidate and our current chair, Alicia Andrews, for one last statement to you folks. But I do want to address a quick question from Kathy that we received. Are there other candidates? At this point, no. We like I said, we left this open until 5 o'clock last night for anyone who wanted to declare themselves a chair candidate. And as of this evening, we just have the one. Obviously, people can be elected from the floor, and that may well happen. But this is a forum that we have afforded to our candidates in the past, and we wanted to do it again this year. But a very quick thank you again to Josh Higginbotham and to Cherie Dickerson. And now I'm going to bring back to you Alicia Andrews, and this is your opportunity to summarize what you want folks to know, and your chance for your last words.
Okay, I did not realize I was going to get an opportunity to speak without questions. But what I want to say is, again, thank you to Cherie Dickerson, Joshua Higginbotham, and you, Scott, for staying after this long to facilitate this conversation. I want to thank all the people who joined us and asked really thoughtful questions and gave me an opportunity to give you an update and basically a state of the state, give you an update of what's going on in our state and what my plans are should I be reelected. I want your support. I feel like in the last 4 years, I've proven my commitment, my dedication to the Oklahoma Democratic Party. What is important to the Oklahoma Democratic Party, in my view, is that we stay financially sound and that we continue to roll out programs that helps build our subunits, that we continue to recruit candidates, and that we expand the number of candidates that we run each election cycle. The goal of 24 in the House of going from 20 to 24 by 2024 and from 20 to 30 by 2030 are real goals that are achievable goals if we all put our shoulders to the grindstone and really do the work. My plan is to make sure, I'm hearing a lot of chatter about how the party isn't inclusive and like people don't know how they can get involved. I'm going to work on that. I know with all amounts of confidence that I am an accessible chair, that I don't have to know you. You can call me and I will answer and we will have a conversation. I maintain, much to the chagrin of my family and loved ones, that I want to be an accessible chair because that's how I hear what's going on. That's how I stay in touch. The party is inclusive. Everyone, come if your goal is to elect and support Democrats. If your goal is to cause mayhem, please don't. Just come on in. Help us elect more Democrats. Help us support the Democrats that are there. Help me build the party, continue to build the party, continue to recruit great candidates, move our state House position from 20 to 24 in the next election cycle and all the way up to 30, maybe beyond by 2030. Those are my plans. They're simple. They're not super complicated. We're going to register more voters because that's what we have to do to get there. We're going to hone in our message because that's what we have to do to get there. It's that simple. It hasn't changed that much because it's not a thing that happens that quickly. We have to continue to do the work. Thanks so very much for joining us. There was a question over here about, is there another announced candidate? I keep hearing that there might be another candidate. I stand firm. I'm going to continue to run whether there's another candidate or not. I continue to ask for your support. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Alicia, thank you. It was so good to get so many questions from so many people in different parts of the state. I was noticing that we really had good representation this evening from people in larger cities, people in suburban areas, and in our rural communities as well. So that's a great thing. Finally, before we leave for the evening, I want to encourage all of you to join us in Tulsa on June 3rd and 4th for our state convention. It doesn't matter if you're a delegate or not. There is room for you to learn, to participate, to meet new friends, people who think like you do, to share your thoughts and ideas. Because as our chair pointed out earlier this evening, the Democratic Party is not the chair, it's not the officers, it's not a small staff. The Democratic Party is every registered Democrat in the state of Oklahoma. And I thank you for making this party stronger with your presence. I thank you for your time this evening. I wish you well. And remember that the Chair's Daily Live is every day at 4:15. And I look forward to seeing you next Monday evening at 6:30 for the Hamilton Report. Good night, everyone.